many years from now, would you be willing to trade all the days from this day to that for one chance, just one chance, to come back here and tell our enemies that they may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom?
Welcome to Anti-Tyranny News Radio here on ECY.TV. Thank you for joining me this evening. A few things that we're going to cover. We're going to kind of cover the border a little bit again. Israel and Gaza. And the flight shot down, and not to mention some other current news. I want to start off, and we'll get into this whole flight thing. Christopher Green out of AMTV put out a report, The Mystery of Flight MH17 Critical Questions. And he does a really good breakdown of not only this flight, the questions, also the previous Malaysia flight to disappear. So I'm going to go ahead and just start this out. And we have it queued up here. So here we go.
On March 8, 2014, Malaysian Airlines Flight 370, a Boeing 777, mysteriously disappeared on its flight from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing. 4 months later, after the most expensive search in aviation history, it has still not been found. According to authorities, radar contact was lost less than an hour after takeoff, and then strangely diverted its flight path west, away from its intended course, across the Malay Peninsula in the opposite direction. There has been no confirmation of a crash site or flight debris. Therefore, there is no evidence to suggest Flight 370 ever crashed in the first place. Many hypothesize, as does AMTV, that Flight MH370 was hijacked. Recent reports, buried by the mainstream media, of course, support this theory. On June 30th, AMTV reported that new evidence had emerged that missing Flight 370's cockpit had been tampered with moments after takeoff from Kuala Lumpur. This was confirmed by a report released by Australian air crash investigators on June 29th. According to The Telegraph, the missing Boeing 777 suffered a mysterious power outage during the early stages of its flight, which experts believe could be part of an attempt to avoid radar detection. The report also concluded that the plane's satellite data unit made an unexpected log-on request to a satellite less than 90 minutes into its flight after takeoff, otherwise known in aviation as a handshake. A log-on request in the middle of a flight is not common, said the report. This was the conclusion of the Australian Transport Safety Bureau. The evidence provided by the independent investigation seems to suggest that this mysterious power outage shortly after takeoff was malicious in intent. David Gleave, an aviation safety expert, said the interruption to the power supply appeared to be the result of someone in the cockpit attempting to minimize the use of the aircraft systems. The action, he said, was consistent with an attempt to turn the plane's communications and other systems off in an attempt to avoid radar detection. A person could be messing around in the cockpit, which would lead to a power interruption, he said. It could be a deliberate act to switch off both engines for some time. By messing about within the cockpit, you could switch off the power temporarily and switch it on again when you need the other systems to fly the airplane. Inmarsat, the company that officially analyzed the flight data from MH370, also confirmed this assessment. So the evidence provided, according to an independent investigation by Australian authorities and Inmarsat, suggests that the plane's mysterious power outage right after takeoff was the result of malicious tampering with a Flight 370's cockpit. This would either mean that terrorists on board the plane, the pilots, or a remote controller hijacked and compromised the original flight path of MH370. Yet you'll barely hear any of this in the mainstream media. Now, just a few short 4 months later, we have a second plane. Coincidentally, another Malaysian Airlines flight, this time MH17. Another Boeing 777, allegedly shot down this time in Ukraine by Russian separatists. This, of course, all according to the mainstream media and Western governments. A couple red flags immediately emerge. How is it, in just a few hours' time, the mainstream media and U.S. government are able to confirm, without a shadow of a doubt, that Flight MH17 was shot down? Again, they still can't find Flight 370 after 4 months, but they've already immediately confirmed the outcome of MH17 and are already pointing a finger at Russian and Russia separatists as the likely culprit. There we go. Russia. That makes sense. Isn't it convenient timing that the U.S. government can blame Putin within just a few hours' time of being responsible for the massacre of innocent civilians and the shooting down of MH17? This, of course, would provide the necessary smokescreen for the U.S. government to aid pro-Western Ukrainian forces on the ground who have recently toppled Kiev's government and sell it as a humanitarian crisis to the public. Haven't we heard this before? Syria chemical weapons seems to ring a bell. Also, is it not possible that Flight MH17 was also hijacked? Could it be the second plane in 4 months' time compromised by terrorists? Do we know for sure that the plane was bombed by surface-to-air missiles, as is suggested by the mainstream media? Or could it have been blown up internally? Notable about the raw video footage first disclosed by the mainstream media shows no contrails from the sky, or for that matter a plane, just moments, frame by frame, before impact. All we see is an explosion over a hill. Is that the hard evidence U.S. authorities are using to confirm and blame Russian separatists for the downing of a commercial airliner in just a few hours? Is it also not strange that it is only Malaysia Airlines that seems to be plagued with mysteriously disappearing and shot down planes? It's almost like the mainstream media and Western governments have targeted Malaysia Airlines specifically as a scapegoat for the new Cold War with Russia. Also interesting about the timing of the alleged shot-down plane of MH17 is the correlation with an abrupt ground invasion of Gaza by Israel. The same day Flight MH17 is blasted all over the news and multiple conspiracy theories abound, Israel launches an aggressive ground war in Gaza. Like many of you, at least regarding the mainstream media, I don't believe in coincidences. So is it possible Flight MH17 is a false flag? Could it be used by the West to attack Russia and also provide adequate cover for an invasion of Gaza by Israel? Notice just how days before Flight MH17 and the Gaza ground invasion began, CNN broadcasters like Wolf Blitzer relocated to Israel for his daily broadcast. It's almost like CNN and other mainstream news outlets were tipped off about coming events before they even happened. More disgusting is that Israel officials are calling the ground war in Gaza an incursion, not an invasion. And the American people are buying it, hook, line, and sinker. Imagine for a minute what I'm telling you is the absolute truth. And two airliners, both Boeing 777s, both from Malaysia Airlines, were hijacked in the last 4 months by terrorists. What implications would this have? Still want to fly the friendly skies? And what motivation would the Russian government, Vladimir Putin himself for that matter, have in shooting down a civilian airliner over eastern Ukraine? Why would Putin or Russian separatists want to encourage Western intervention and provide ammunition, so to speak, to the U.S. government? The only logical explanation would be that maybe, and I mean maybe, Russian separatists shot it down by accident. Although this is possible, it's not likely. More importantly, why was this plane even flying in a war zone in the first place? Does it not seem dumb and relevant that MH17 was flying over a known hostile environment? Were they trying to be shot down? Also strange is that according to news agency Interfax, Malaysian Airlines flight MH17 was traveling almost the same flight path as Russia's President Vladimir Putin's jet shortly before the crash. Could this have been an assassination attempt of Vladimir Putin? Why would pro-Russian separatists located in Russian-friendly eastern Ukraine shoot at Putin's presidential plane? You see, these are critical questions you won't get from the mainstream media, and most of the consuming masses, failing to do their own research due to laziness or just plain ignorance, won't ask. Here's what we know with absolute certainty. Flight MH370 still has not been found. It's been 4 months, and there is still no evidence to support that it crashed. Recent reports done by independent investigators conclude that the cockpit was tampered with shortly after takeoff. This suggests foul play. There was a mysterious power outage, the plane diverted from its known flight path, and it disappeared from radar. Flight MH17 crashed in eastern Ukraine today, on July 17th. There is no evidence of contrails or images of an actual plane moments before impact. The U.S. government and the mainstream media have already concluded within just a few short hours' notice, without doing any due diligence, that the plane was shot down. Yet they still haven't found Flight 370, and it's been 4 months. Israel just invaded Gaza with ground troops. This is what actually happened and is actually happening right now. This is bigger than politics, folks. Democrat or Republican, conservative or liberal, Jew or Christian. People are dying. Kids are being murdered in Gaza. Innocents aboard planes can't be found. And your government is lying to you. I'm Christopher Green. Get it out everywhere, hard-hitting it in your face, and click the link below to support our sponsor.
Okay. Now, you know, when we look at this whole thing, it seems fishy from the beginning. Like he said, you know, they came out so quickly. Yep, it was shot down. Well, I looked at the video of the explosion, and I didn't see a smoke trail. I didn't see no evidence of something falling because it was shot down by a missile. You see clouds in the background, and then you see the explosion and little cloud. It doesn't seem to me, just, I don't know, using just common sense analysis of it, that something was shot down. And that's my immediate take. I was looking for like a trail that shows the path that it came down out of the sky, because usually a missile hits something and it explodes, it catches fire, and there would usually be a trail. But I can, you know, say, well, maybe it was too far away that you can't see that trail. And okay, that's a possibility. But for us to come out and say, well, it was either Putin or, you know, the Russian separatists. Are you serious? The one thing that did come out of this, which I have multiple sources on this, said, did MH17, this is out of Daily Mail, MH17 pilot divert into the danger zone. Aviation expert claims captain made last-minute change of course over Ukraine because he felt uncomfortable. And we have to look at this and then go right off the bat. Diverts, changes course. It seems odd that the first Malaysia flight that disappeared also decided to change course. We have one here out of InfoWars. Let me bring it back up because I usually don't try to leave InfoWars open. It slows down my browser. Okay. I have to look a little bit farther. As my browser takes forever. I thought I seen it here. I thought I had one out here, talking about the plane had been diverted. I think the Telegraph might also had something. I can't be positive on these. I had so many articles open today. A lot of people are calling this, okay, right here. This one's out of InfoWars. Sorry that took so long. And actually it's by Zero Hedge. I just happened to get it from InfoWars. I just open up almost everything that went across my newsfeed this morning. Says while there are various questions that have already emerged from what was supposed to be Ukraine's slam dunk proof confirming Russian rebel involvement in today's MH17 tragedy, perhaps one just as gaping question emerges when one looks at what is clearly an outliner flight path in today's final and tragic departure of Malaysian Airlines Boeing 777. Perhaps the best visualization of what the issue is comes from, let me try to pronounce this, Bagalis Kamiros, who has collated all the recent MH17 flight paths as tracked by FlightAware, and shows that while all 10 most recent paths passed safely south of the, give me a second here, my scroll button's not wanting to scroll here. Hopefully my browser didn't freeze up on me, but it looks like it did. If it's not doing anything. Now it looks like it wants to. Okay, perhaps the best visual. Okay, I went through that part. Shows why all 10 most recent paths passed safely south of the Donetsk region and crossed the zone above the Sea of Azov. It was only today's tragic flight that passed straight over Donetsk. And if you see the picture that they have here, you can find it at zerohedgeorinfowars.com. It clearly shows that it completely took a different path than any of the other air traffic in the area. Why is the diversion from the traditional flight path and passage over the highlighted zone a concern? Because as the following map from the Wall Street Journal shows, this is precisely where the restricted airspace is. So they're also calling it restricted airspace, and then going, why did it get shot down? So perhaps before coming to certain conclusion about the involvement of this rebel, or that the key question is one should ask before casting blame is, why did the pilot divert from his usual flight plan? And Daily Mail is claiming because he was uncomfortable, and they show the same map that shows the path that that plane took. And let me find it here. Sorry, I was closing out Windows. Occasionally the browser just flips out and doesn't want to play nice. Let me try to close out Drudge here because it's constantly refreshing. Maybe I'll have some better luck. Or maybe not. Who knows? Might have to close this browser out. Maybe not. I don't know. Seems anymore you need 100 different browsers because none of them work when you need them to. Okay, I'm gonna close this out too. I gotta love technology. Never works when you need it to. Okay, what we have here too, is something that, other than RT and looks like future or futurist and cast, I don't know, WordPress, and before it's news, they're saying that it was an attempt on Putin. They believe it was. The Total Collapse is carrying it. Eyeopening.info is carrying it. But I'll give it to you right out of RT. It looks like a couple other European, maybe the Daily Mail or Telegraph, one of those, were covering it too. But the colors of the planes, if you actually see the picture that they show, the colors of Russia's presidential plane and Malaysian planes are basically the same color pattern. Therefore, they're going to use that. I'll play this clip here if it's not too long from RT. And well, it's Russian-controlled television, so of course
Putin has said
it's going to be a little bit of propaganda. So we'll let it play here, and you're going to have to look at everything out there and come to your own conclusions. But let's go ahead and play this clip.
Ukraine should bear the responsibility for the tragedy. The Russian leader stressing that it would not have happened indeed if there was peace in the country.
We have to do everything in our capability to make sure an objective picture of what happened is made public and known to people in our country, as well as the people of Ukraine and the whole world. What happened is completely unacceptable, and no one has the right to walk away without making an objective conclusion of what happened first. I want to point out that this tragedy wouldn't have happened if there was peace on the Ukrainian land, at least if the fighting hadn't had resumed in the southeast. Without any doubt, the state on whose territory this happened must stand responsible for this horrible tragedy.
So, they're claiming that it could have been an attempt on Putin, which it's possible if we do a similar plan, and the color schemes are very, very similar on the planes, even though the planes are different style planes. There was another clip I wanted to play on this kind of quick here. Kind of pain in the butt having to pull everything back up. Okay. No, I'm getting back up. And if you go to YouTube, Pigmine5, a lot of clips covering a lot of different things here. But another one covering this Malaysian flight here. It's titled "Investigating Down Malaysia Airlines Jet."
Today's disaster in the air was one of the deadliest ever. But if, as the U.S. government now believes, the Malaysian Airlines flight was hit by a missile, it wouldn't be the first time a commercial airliner was shot out of the sky. So what do past incidents tell us about what may have happened here? Here's ABC's senior national correspondent, Jim Avila.
Here's what investigators are facing. A debris field stretching for miles. The main impact zone thoroughly charred. The fuselage from the aluminum frame to the human bodies decimated. But a few miles away, entire intact chunks still carrying the airline's color scheme. Bodies still recognizable in a residential neighborhood. The voice recorder on board, which tapes the conversations of the pilots in the cockpit and to the ground, are unlikely to have recorded much more than an explosion. The captain and first officer would not have seen a speeding missile coming their way, and the passengers literally never knew what hit them.
The effect of being suddenly thrust into a depressurized situation at 33,000 feet means that you're going to be possessed of only a couple of seconds, really, of useful consciousness before you black out, even if the stunning effect of whatever explosion might have occurred here hadn't already knocked you out.
On the ground, everywhere you turn, clues of what brought this workhorse of the International Long-Distance Air Fleet down from 33,000 feet.
When you see wreckage and people still strapped in their seats along a path of 5-10 miles like we have here, it indicates the airplane most definitely split up at higher altitude and dumped not only people out, but dumped the entire floor section and sections of the fuselage. And that's indicative of an explosion.
And Nance says because so many of the pieces show no evidence of fire, that indicates an explosion from an outside source. Where it happened points to a missile.
This is a war zone, and people are firing at each other, and it is possible for somebody to mistake an airliner, even at 33,000 feet, for a hostile airplane. It's happened before, at least twice.
In both cases, the civilian planes were somehow seen as threats to the countries that shot them down.
That was a dead on!
On July 3rd, 1988, an Iranian airliner with 290 people on board en route from Tehran to Dubai, when it was shot down over the Persian Gulf by a missile fired from a U.S. Navy ship. The USS Vincennes had been exchanging gunfire with Iranian gunboats that day and mistakenly took the A330 Airbus for an Iranian fighter jet. And 5 years before that, in September 1983, a Korean passenger plane with 269 on board was shot down by a Russian fighter jet after it accidentally strayed into then-Soviet airspace. The Soviet government first denied involvement.
Let us now listen to the tape.
But at the UN Security Council, audio tapes made it clear it was a deliberate act.
In both of those cases, there had been something else going on in the area the day before. In the Ukrainian case, something was shot down the day before. So it's possible that people on both sides of the border, Russia and Ukraine, were seeing it through the lens of the continuing activity that's been going on that border and thinking this was not a passenger plane, but thinking it was a military plane.
In this case, denial is possible again. The ethnic Russian opposition controls the Ukrainian land where the plane crashed, and the rebels claim to have already confiscated those crucial black boxes, vowing to send them to Russia. Former NTSB Director Tom Howder tells ABC News the data inside them cannot be altered without detection.
It's very easy to tell if somebody has tampered with that data. So I'm not overly concerned about that. The key now is to get that data to the authorities as quickly as possible, get the specialists on hand, and download the information.
Perhaps of more concern is the integrity of the crash site itself. In a war zone, maintaining a crime scene is not always the first priority.
That's a major concern, that anytime you have an uncontrolled accident site, parts vanish. It's just the way it is. We don't want that to happen here. And obviously, if they start removing parts, they may remove parts that are critical to the investigation. They don't know what they have. And so there needs to be some control over the site, because any part that walks off, if you will, may be the critical part to help understand what happened here.
A 10-mile debris path with clues, answers, and the victims that carry them, now all guarded by hostiles, perhaps even the people who shot them down. For Nightline, I'm Jim Avila in Washington.
FBI officials will now be heading to Ukraine to aid in the crash investigation.
Okay, well, I did get informed that PigMine's website is now up, pigminenews.com. Some big stuff coming for pigminenews.com. And I'm currently working on finishing things I need for Anti-Tyranny including getting the studio ready, and I will be moving from this office into the studio. A lot of work. I've been swamped with so much work, it's been unbelievable. I was finding myself just sitting down for a second and passing out. I'd be in the middle of doing 5 things and just be like, I'm going to sit down real quick, and completely out within minutes, seconds. But definitely been trying to get things up and running. So if you would like to keep up to date, if you go to antityrannynews.com, there's a little subscription there on the right hand side. Go ahead and subscribe to the email list, and when everything starts firing, right, you'll get updates on everything that drops. So definitely go and do that. A lot of great things that we're trying to bring, and we're going to move forward at the pace that my pocketbook allows me, and I do take donations, but I've funded basically everything out of pocket, so I'll continue to do that. So don't expect everything to be so quick, but I will get it up and moving here. I'm hoping probably here in a month or so I'll have a few things dropping, and a lot to come after that. And your support to websites like UCY.tv, my website, PigMine News, it's what keeps us going. It's well appreciated, and we always thank you for your support. Out of benswan.com says leaked audio shows MH17 might have been shot down by pro-Russian separatists. And it says here, the following is transcribed from the leaked audio between Major and Grech while investigating the debris. And this is the individuals talking on the tapes are reportedly Igor Bezler, a pro-Russian rebel leader, Bezler's superior, Vasily Garanin, and 2 other separatist soldiers going by the code names of Major and Greek, and the Cossack commander Nikolai Kazinsin. And this is the following transcript investigating the debris. Well, what do we have there? In short, it was 100% a passenger civilian aircraft. Are many people there? Holy shit, the debris fell right into the yards of homes. What kind of aircraft? I haven't ascertained this. I've been to the main site. I am only surveying the scene where the first bodies fell. There are the remains of internal brackets, seats, and bodies. Is there anything left of the weapon? Absolutely nothing. Civilian items, medicinal stuff, towels, toilet paper. The same clip goes on, and Major blames the Cossacks at Chermukino for shooting down the plane. The Cossacks in question may have been under the command of Kaczynski, who was recorded telling a fellow soldier the plane was carrying spies. The following is an audio clip transcribed by BBC. Male fighter. Regarding the plane shot down in the area of Torres, it's a civilian one. Fell down near Grabovo. There are lots of corpses of women and children. Cossacks are out there looking at all this. They say on TV it's a Ukrainian AN-26 transport plane, but they say it's got Malaysia Airlines written on the plane. What was it doing in Ukrainian territory? Male voice identified as Cossack commander Nikolai Kozintsin. The means they were carrying spies. They shouldn't be curses flying. There is a war going on. Do you have a take on it? Do you see something going on? Do you think this is being used for something? 718-717-8296. Feel free to call in 718-717-8296. You can call in, give us your take on it. You have Ukraine versus Russia and the separatists. Ukraine being divided, the people of that region being divided. You have Palestine versus Israel going on. You have Americans versus Mexicans and pro illegal immigration. Any means of immigration type. And it gets real complicated because as a libertarian, I'm for having open borders, but not with governments controlling things. That makes it even worse. You start having governments, the power over more territory being centralized. Kind of what we fought a Revolutionary War over. You look at everything going on, and it seems odd that everything is breaking out at this time and so widespread, and it's all divide and conquer. It's meant to bring down nations. And it seems that there's something odd going on. Again, if you want to call in, 718-717-8296, feel free to call it. Okay. Let's see here. Come on. And this one out of benswan.com, which is I think pretty telling. NBC removes reporter from Gaza after he witnessed Israeli assault on children. Foreign correspondent for NBC News, Amin Moyildin, witnessed the murder of 4 Palestinian boys via Israeli airstrike on Wednesday after providing a first-hand second-hand account for NBC, he was contacted by the network's executives and told to leave Gaza immediately. NBC insisted their decision to remove him from the region was due to security concerns. However, according to journalist Glenn Greenwald, they quickly proceeded to replace Mo Yildiz, who is an Arabic-speaking Egyptian-American with experience reporting in the region, with Richard Engel, an American producer who has never been to Gaza and speaks no Arabic. Yildiz account of Wednesday's event in Gaza weren't just limited to NBC. He also shared them with social media. On Twitter, he reported that he had been playing and kicking a ball with the young boys just minutes before their lives were ended. And the tweet he put out, 4 Palestinian kids killed in a single Israeli airstrike minutes before they were killed by our hotel. I was kicking ball with them. And hashtag Gaza. Mo Yildiz also gave the boys an identity on social media, sharing their names and ages on Twitter. Gaza victims: Ahid Atef Bakar, 10 years old; Zakira Ahad Bakar, 10 years old; Mohammed Ramaz Bakar, 11 years old; and Isma Mohammed Baker, 9 years old. While the words he wrote made readers aware of the details of the events, pictures he shared with both Twitter and Instagram brought the horrific reality of the Baker boys' murder to life. And you can read the rest of the article, and there is the actual video out there that you can actually see, not just pictures, but video aftermath of it. And then there's still pictures out there of it going on, because they were hit by a second strike running across the beach, and these were little kids. And we've seen the video that Israel put out, and Glenn Beck even showed it, showing, we see kids here, we're going to call this one off. Reporting via aircraft pilot surveying the area. Well, if they're that good, you have 4 little kids out on a beach, and it was just 4 little kids running across the beach after a first strike hit off in the distance, and that jet coming overhead, and they were targeted. And really the video of the aftermath and the still pictures of them being hit are definitely telling. And then having this guy removed as the embedded reporter, and having a producer that doesn't speak any Arabic, has no experience in the region, kind of really shows the manipulation of mainstream media. It's just so evident anymore. Okay. Now, give me a second here. And this one was just put out. I didn't see this before I went on air, so this was just uploaded. This is from Stefan Molyneux. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17 crash propaganda decoded. I always find his take interesting, so we're going to cover this and maybe try to get to the bottom of this. At least, what is this being used for? The propaganda, and it's pretty evident when they come out and say it was Russia or pro-Russian separatists that did it. They shot it down, and that's exactly what happened. So quickly, it doesn't seem feasible that they would truly come to that conclusion. But let's go ahead and cue this up.
Hi everybody, Stefan Molyneux from Free Domain Radio. This is the breaking news regarding the recent downing of the Malaysian airline that apparently was shot down by a surface-to-air.
Sorry here. Okay, now it should go.
Air missile of extremely high sophistication and training requirements, therefore almost certainly military grade, military installed, and military trained. And I've done some videos on why the conflict is occurring, and we'll put those in the low bar, including an interview with Paul Craig Roberts about the situation. So we'll just touch on it very briefly. One of the most important things to remember about the relationship between Ukraine and Russia is that Ukraine suffered a worse than Holocaust number of casualties in what at least the Ukrainian government has termed a genocide against the Ukrainian people. This occurred 1932 to 1933 under Soviet, of course, domination. It's called the Holodomor, or extermination by hunger. It's a man-made famine in the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic that killed up to 7.5 million Ukrainians. This was the result of collectivized farming process, which also killed tens of millions of people around the world, including Cambodia and China and other places. During the famine, which is also known as the terror famine in Ukraine, and famine genocide in Ukraine, millions of citizens of Ukrainian SSR, the majority of whom were Ukrainians, died of starvation in a peacetime catastrophe which was unprecedented in the history of Ukraine. Ukraine has, for hundreds of years, been known as the breadbasket of Europe because of its incredibly fertile soil and capacity to feed almost all the European population. Since 2006, the Holodomor has been recognized by the independent Ukraine and several other countries as a genocide of the Ukrainian people. Some people say that Stalin wanted to suppress any possible rebellions coming out of Ukraine. There was some natural factors, some bad economic policies, to say the least. And there were a rejection of outside aid. Stories did get out to the rest of the world about this largely engineered famine, which could be the result of ideology and could have been a result of genocidal programs which have not been confirmed as yet. They took all of the household foodstuffs, and they also prevented the population from leaving. And so the loss of life, of course, is even greater than the Jewish Holocaust under the Nazis. Now, the fact that this is not part of our understanding of Eastern Europe and the relationships between Ukraine and Russia is one reason why it's a little hard to figure out what's going on. So let's just do a brief introduction. So a Malaysia Airlines Boeing 777 flying from Amsterdam to Kuala Lumpur, which was designated MH17, crashed near the settlement of Gravovo in Ukraine's highly volatile Donetsk region, July 17th, killing all 298 people aboard. This is the worst airline accident since the 9/11 World Trade Center attacks. There were a lot of Dutch people. There was also, of course, a lot of researchers for an AIDS conference that they were heading to, and a few football fans off to see their team play in New Zealand. But from a ratio of population standpoint, it's absolutely horrendous. This crash killed a larger share of the Dutch population than 9/11 did of the U.S. population. So it is, if it is an act of aggression, if it is an act of terrorism, then it is for the Dutch people greater than 9/11 in the United States. An advisor to the Ukrainian Interior Ministry claimed that the airline was shot down by a Buk surface-to-air missile system, and U.S. intelligence agencies have supported this claim. Mark Galeotti, one of the foremost Western experts on Russia's military and security services, said, "Although I wish it were otherwise, I feel that the overwhelming odds are that MH17 was shot down by a Buk M1 surface-to-air missile fired by the rebels but supplied by the Russians." And again, this is all conjecture. Nothing has been determined for final as yet. The falling of the airline in the Ukraine scattered bodies and debris for miles, and of course the plane was considered to be destroyed mid-air. Critics are accusing Russia of providing the missile system to the rebels. So the rebels in the eastern part of Ukraine wish to rejoin Russia. There was a referendum, which was very positive. Wish to rejoin Russia, and they have basically been saying to people, don't fly over our airspace, because they consider that Ukrainian warplanes are flying over their area. Russia, of course, denies any involvement. The rebels deny any responsibility and accused, as is usual in the fog of war, Ukraine of shooting down the plane. Sergei Kapfadze, a spokesman for the Donetsk People's Republic, DPR, Prime Minister, said, "Our militia does not have the armament that might down a plane flying at an altitude of 10 kilometers. We have shoulder-carried missile launchers that might shoot down planes at an altitude of 3 or maximum 4 kilometers." So it is, of course, to some degree, a war zone over there, or airlines were warned to avoid the eastern Ukrainian airspace after 2 Ukrainian planes, a fighter jet and a military transport aircraft, were shot down recently. Norman Shanks, who's a professor of aviation security at Coventry University, said, quote, "It is a busy aviation route, and there have been suggestions that a notice was given to aviators telling airlines to avoid that particular area. But Malaysia Airlines, like a number of other carriers, have been continuing to use it because it is a shorter route, which means less fuel and therefore less money. I expect the area will now be declared a no-fly zone, and aircraft will have no choice but to take a different and longer route." An anonymous pilot for a major European airline told the British newspaper that it was normal practice for airlines to fly over conflict areas. Quote, "We would often avoid areas where there is air-to-air conflict, but we flew over Iraq and Afghanistan when the British and U.S. armed forces were deployed there because only one side was using military jets." Now, there's been some misinformation. I guess it's not a huge shock coming out of the mainstream media. Western media outlets falsely claimed that the Russian-backed separatist leader Igor Strelkov, in his, it's called VK, it's the Russian version of Facebook profile, confessed that DRP militias shot down the Malaysian plane. The post was later deleted, but screenshots of it circulated on the internet. In it, this leader supposedly claimed that the separatists had managed to take down an Antonov AN-26 military transport airplane instead of a passenger Boeing 777. But the VK profile is actually run by a group of Strelkov fans who collect and post information about the Crimean crisis. In a later post, the group stated that its previous information had come from a forum frequented by DRP militias, which I suppose would be the first indication of anonymous forum posts proving to be false on the internet. The deleted post didn't have the group's image banner that signifies an actual Strelkov statement. All right, so the missile launcher has been rumored to be part of the militias or the rebels' armaments for some time. On the 29th of June, Russian news agencies confirmed that forces of the DPR had captured a Ukrainian anti-aircraft base equipped with a Buk missile system, or more than one. At the time, a Ukrainian press secretary claimed that the rebels seized only 2 Buk system trucks that were out of commission. Furthermore, experts say that the separatists aren't trained to operate such military equipment. According to retired Brigadier General Kevin Ryan, director of the Defense and Intelligence Project at the Balfour Center for Science and International Affairs at Harvard University, who must have one of the most landscapey business cards known to mankind, This is not, he says, this is not the kind of weapon a couple of guys are going to pull out of a garage and fire. Ryan concludes that only a professional military force, Ukrainian or Russian, can carry out such an attack, whether on purpose or by accident. Ukrainian Prosecutor General Vitaly Yarema says, after the passenger airline was downed, the military reported to the president that terrorists do not have our air defense missile systems book and S-3000. He went on to add that these weapons were not seized. Now, the Russian response, Russia's Defense Ministry press service stated, quote, thus divisions of the 156th Air Defense Regiment of the Ukrainian Armed Forces are deployed near Donetsk's northwestern suburbs. They have missile defense systems of the Book M1 type. Such systems are capable of detecting air targets at a distance of up to 160 kilometers and hit them in the entire range of altitudes at a distance of over 30 kilometers. He goes on to say, apart from that, warplanes of the Ukrainian army equipped with various types of missiles are permanently present over the Donetsk region. The ministry says on July 17th, Russian missile defense systems in this region were out of service. Russian warplanes performed no flight in Russian regions bordering Ukraine on July 17th. This information is confirmed by our recorders. The ministry also noted that the plane was flying outside the range of Russia's missile defense systems. Could it be just a case of tragic incompetence? In my view, most likely. Russian news agency ITAR-TASS claimed that on July 16th, the day before the incident, Ukraine dispatched a Buk anti-aircraft battalion to the region where the Malaysian plane was shot down. Pilot and aviation expert Yuri Karash told Russia Today that the Ukrainians may have been behind the incident. Quote, I don't know who could have shot it down, but I can allege that it was most likely the Ukrainian armed forces, simply because its military, anti-aircraft defense in particular, are unfortunately unqualified. As judging by the overall state of the Ukrainian armed forces, insufficient attention has been paid to their training. Back in 2001, a Ukrainian missile fired during a military exercise took down a Russian passenger plane, killing 76 people. Political observer Maxim Zarov said, it is yet to establish whether it was a deliberate provocation of the Ukrainian military that have run out of control or a tragic accident stemming from flagrant unprofessionalism. Nikhil Vorbach, president of the European Cockpit Association, which represents pilots, said information from the intelligence services will be crucial in deciding whether the aviation authorities erred in not including the Russian-Ukrainian border in the exclusion zone. Quote, I am a KLM pilot and fly over the area. If some intelligence agency did have information about a threat, we need to know if it was shared with everybody. We will have to wait for the outcome of an accident investigation to see if a mistake was made. Western leaders, how is the West responding with the usual non-partisan objectivity? I doubt it. Western leaders are already trying to drag Russia into the conflict over its alleged assistance of rebel fighters. Senator John McCain said, if it is the result of either separatist or Russian actions mistakenly believing that this is a Ukrainian warplane, I think there is going to be hell to pay, and there should be. Hillary Clinton said, put Vladimir Putin on notice that he has gone too far, and we are not going to stand idly by. I guess he's been put on notice. So, another quote from Clinton says, now, how we determine that Russian-backed rebels are responsible for the attack will require some forensics, but then, if there is evidence pointing in that direction, the equipment had to have come from Russia. What more the Russians may or may not have done, we don't know. Now, given that the U.S. has poured $5 billion into Ukrainian politics over the last decade or so, some of that money may have been used to purchase military equipment from Russia. Now, there is some question as to whether the Ukrainians were aiming for Vladimir Putin's plane, which at a distance, of course, looks similar, has similar markings, but Putin's office and organization says that they weren't flying anywhere near it and the plane is not around. A Kremlin spokesman declined to comment on the Interfax report So an unidentified Russian aviation official said that the Malaysian air flight bound for Kuala Lumpur from Amsterdam may have been downed by the Ukrainian rocket attempting to shoot down Putin's plane. Putin returned from a trip to Latin America yesterday, but that does not seem to be what happened. Now, this has happened before. Of course, the Americans shot down an Iranian airliner in Iranian airspace in 1988 because they mistook it for an F-14 Tomcat fighter plane. So these kinds of tragic misunderstandings, if that's what it was, in fact, that happened, have occurred before. It is somewhat instructive to see the differences between Obama and Reagan. Reagan, when he was faced with the knowledge of a downed airplane from Russia. Russia shot down an airplane, responded with outright moral condemnation, and so on. Obama said basically, well, that's a shame, and then went to two Democratic fundraisers to make sure that the money was flowing into his political coffers as much as he wanted it to be. So it remains to be seen, of course. The truth may never be known. There are some recordings that have been intercepted from wiretaps, which have been released, in which Ukrainians seem to be discussing the oops, we shot down a civilian plane. Whether this is true or not, or staged, or it's all part of the fog of war at the moment. But like what's going on in Israel and Palestine at the moment, this simply shows that we are heavily armed, Stone Age, tribalist monsters still as a species. We should be working to find our common humanity through reason and philosophy, and we should not be having this extremely deadly loyalty to dirt and bits of cloth and usually the blind, violent, and tragic accidents of history. But these things are going to continue until we find more common humanity, which will be, of course, a multi-generational project. This is Stefan Molyneux for Free Domain Radio. Thank you so much for watching.
Well, he pointed out a lot of things that we pointed out earlier, and the flight pattern, being similar to Putin's plane, all these suspicions. The simple fact is we have countries, politicians, and so-called world leaders. I wouldn't call them leaders, unless you want to be led into the dirt. It's one of those things that it's being used for all the wrong things. And no one's really addressing that. We have people jumping to conclusions, which is evident when you immediately come out, yep, it was Russia. Russian separatists. They're all in it together, yep. So it's them. Not a lot of evidence to back what they're saying, but it seems like they will work pretty hard to make sure the evidence comes up now that they have already come out and said that, yeah, it was the Russian separatists. We take everything anymore with just a grain of salt. We live in a time where everything that is told to us we have to question. Okay, I hear a noise here. Not sure what that is. I don't know if you guys hear it or not, but it's bugging me. It's in my ear. I don't know what it is, so. Probably just interference with my mic. Let me go ahead and pull up some of these other articles here. Okay. Now, we have an update on one here on Drudge Report, which is going to be I've seen some stuff in the chat room, people talking about the police brutality, and seen this on Drudge Report. This is coming out of the New York Daily News. It says here, 2 cops pulled off street. Staten Island DA looking into death of dad of 6 after NYPD cop put him in chokehold during sidewalk takedown. It's got exclusive video here. Oh, excuse me. Said amid controversy over the death of Staten Island man following a confrontation with NYPD Mayor de Blasio on Friday, abruptly postponed his departure for a family vacation in Italy hours before he was scheduled to depart. In a brief statement, Press Secretary Phil Walczak cited only de Blasio need to attend to city business. Updates to the mayor's schedule will be provided as they become available, he added. This comes as 2 NYPD officers were yanked off the streets Friday as cops and the Staten Island District Attorneys investigated the stunning death of a suspect placed in a banned chokehold. The officers were slated for death duty pending completion of the probe into Thursday's death of Eric Garner, 43, as he was brought down by 5 NYPD officers outside a Thompsonville beauty parlor. Loss of life is always a tragedy, said Police Commissioner Bill Branton of the City Hall News Conference. Lost my spot here. Nobody began the day with the expectation it would end the way it did. So it's a tragedy that needs to be totally investigation. Okay, some bad talking here. With the questions answered. He was joined by Mayor de Blasio, who had earlier sent his condolences to the dead man's family and promised a full and thorough investigation. The Reverend Al Sharpton, oh great, said that one-sided attack on an unarmed man who couldn't breathe was an outrage. Yes, that's true. It's the most inhumane, insensitive display of disregard for the citizens you're supposed to protect that I've seen in a long time, Sharpton said. The 2 officers put on death duty were not identified, but one had 80 years with the NYPD, or 8 years, I was going to say 80? What? 8 years with the NYPD and the other 4 years before their violent encounter with Garner. My office is working along with the NYPD to do a complete and thorough investigation into the circumstances surrounding Mr. Garner's death, and District Attorney Daniel M. Donovan Jr. in a Friday statement. The Police Internal Affairs Department began its investigation Thursday night, hours after the unarmed man's death. The NYPD, in its official statement about the fatal incident, said only that Garner went into cardiac arrest and died at Richmond University Medical Center. No criminal charges were filed Thursday in the death. But a video captured Garner's desperate plea for help as one cop shoved his head into the sidewalk and 3 officers pinned him down while a 5th cop put him in handcuffs. I can't breathe, he shouted in vain. By the video's end, Garner was lying motionless on the sidewalk as cops chased eyewitnesses away. Of course, you shouldn't have. I'm surprised they didn't start tackling people for cameras. Garner is the married father of 6 kids and grandfather to 2. His outraged family said cops provided them with no details until they arrived at the hospital to identify the body. Garner says on the video that he was breaking up a fight before cops arrived and insisted that he was wrongly accused. I did nothing, he said loudly. I was sitting here the whole time minding my business. And, of course, they tackled him and definitely put him in a little bit of danger there. So, we see what's really happening when it comes to that, and I don't know what will come out of the investigation. If you look at most investigations, well, they weren't exactly right, but they weren't exactly wrong, but we'll put them on death duty and eventually they're right back on the street. The police unions play a big role in that too. And for most of the, officers not to stand up against it and say, no, hey, we are the union, we are the police officers, and we're not going to work with these people. We have to bring down this steroid anger issue going on. I don't know what it is. But the way these officers really just feel above the law with that badge on them, we have to break that. And if there are good officers out there, they will start standing up against that. And people, there's no good officers because they don't stand up against that. Well, there's some good sheriffs out there, and they're officers, and they run their sheriff's office and their deputies, and they at least do a pretty good attempt for a population that is so brainwashed to try to, respect people's rights. And you see some of that where you see sheriffs show up at a situation and they're like, he's not breaking no law. I'm not going to, make him go away. He's allowed to do that. He's in his rights. And when you see more of that, you should. A lot of people go, well, if you're a libertarian, you still have to say that officers don't. Well, I say, yeah, we do have to get to the point where it's a complete understanding that officers are not above the law. We have to congratulate the ones that are trying to get to that point. A lot of them are trying. They're not perfect in their ideology, and we gotta stop pretending we are too. We make our own mistakes in our own lives when it comes to our ideology, and we go, okay, that's maybe that way of acting or whatever I did, or whatever it is. Maybe that's a little bit hypocritical to what my ideological beliefs are. So maybe I should rethink that. And I think that's a part of growing, evolving your mind. So we have to take these steps towards that direction. It's not going to happen overnight, and we got to stop pretending that it's going to happen overnight and keep speaking up about it. Okay. Let me see what this one is about. This one looks like it's out of the Telegraph, and it says in the flight MH17 and the New World Disorder. I think this might end up touching on kind of what I was talking about. It says here the downing Malaysian passenger plane shows that the West is paying the price for its complacency, weakness, and lack of leadership. No, this is, looks like it's going to be, oh yeah, this comes straight out of Washington. I'm not even going to read that. Instead, I'm going to bring up another article that I had here. I'm pretty sure I bookmarked that one too. Kind of glad I bookmarked a few of these. I got tired of bookmarking all this stuff before the program because it gets tiring deleting them all and end up with a bookmarked list that's forever long. I don't know why, but my internet is slow today. Okay, here we go. Finally. Now, come on. I'm kind of starting to have some problems here. Okay, finally, I have it up. Jeez. And this was something that I wasn't aware of, and I seen it at the Blaze, and I definitely had no idea. Come on. It says the surprising ban still included in 8 state constitutions. 8 U.S. state constitutions still explicitly bar atheists from holding public office. While their inclusion in the documents may be surprising, these bans on non-theists have not been actively enforced for decades. The states in question are Arkansas, Pennsylvania, Maryland, North Carolina, South Carolina, Mississippi, Tennessee, and Texas. Each, to varying degrees, have constitutional texts that proclaim that non-believers are simply not welcome in the political sphere. Consider the Arkansas Constitution, which was adopted in 1874 and reads in part, "No person who denies the being of God shall hold any office in the civil departments of this state, nor be competent to testify as a witness in any court." And the Mississippi Constitution, adopted in 1890, has similar language. "No person who denies the existence of a supreme being shall hold any office in the state." The Tennessee Constitution, though, offers up a twist concerning this paradigm. Not only does it mention atheists and those who deny a future state of rewards and punishment as being ineligible for election office, but it also bans pastors and ministers. But again, while these bans are on the books, they stop being enforced after the Tocaso versus Watkins Supreme Court battle in 1961, as the Washington Post reported. The case centered on atheist Roy Tocaso, who was denied an appointment to be a notary public due to his non-belief. After he sued, the Supreme Court ruled that a religious test violated his religious freedom, effectively rendering bans on atheists serving in public office unconstitutional. So that's interesting. You know, again, you learn new things all the time. Because I don't play in the whole sphere of religion when it comes to debating it and all that. I have my personal beliefs. I don't publicly claim a religion. I don't go to any religious organization. I keep my personal beliefs in any type of higher power or anything, just personal. It's between me and that higher power. I don't claim any certain religious affiliation for that reason. I was raised in a Methodist church, and my personal belief just comes from me questioning things and coming to my own conclusion. So that's where I hold that, and it kind of makes me wonder, you know, how would they have, you know, put me out there, because I have personal belief. Some of them say higher power, so I can go, well, I believe in there, you know, there is some type of higher power. We sure hope that humans aren't the highest power out there. The universe is screwed if we're the most intellectual thing out there. So, you know, I do believe in higher power. If science proves that it's just the universe is the higher power, that's what it comes out to certain people, where people might believe in a deity. I just don't get into it. I believe everybody should have their own beliefs. Or non-beliefs. Whatever, I don't care. What I focus on mainly is the character of people. No matter what religion you are, no matter what beliefs you have, the way you interact with people around you and others, I think, is what speaks the volumes. You know, there's people I disagree with, friends I disagree with, people on this network I disagree with, but I have a high respect for them. And I try to give them that respect, and, you know, I've been lucky not to have any major issues, no major personal attacks, so I guess I'm lucky for that. You know, you get the trolls here and there, but they're not too big of a problem. I expected more a long time ago, but you really find out who the trolls are, the people that just, they cause problems just to cause problems. And once you realize that, you just kind of ignore them. And any problem you had with that goes away. Okay, here we go. Maybe. This damn thing. Okay, we're just gonna have to close this out and restart it here. Excuse me, why did I do this? It'll drive me nuts if I don't do something. Okay. Okay, here we go. Now everything seems to be working a little bit better. This one, this was posted today from Adam, and it's Adam versus the lifeboat arguments. A caller puts Adam on the spot about these annoying scenarios trying to be realistic. He agrees it's time to get Adam in more debates. So, let's go ahead and pull this up here.
Welcome to the show, Clado. Outstanding. Thanks for being with us. I'm happy. You know why? Because I'm fucking free. That's why. True. I'm free where it counts. All right, now, I do have to tell you, my thoughts, lifeboat scenarios are freaking annoying. And
they're so annoying.
Not as useful as a lot of people think they are in debates. And that's why they're annoying.
Yeah, I've been looking at lifeboat scenarios and kind of trying to come at it with some new angle. And I'm kind of coming to the conclusion that we can equate them to, like, accidents. You know, like Jan Helfeld uses, if you're stranded in a desert and you need water, you know, you're going to steal water? Oh, you're immoral. You're breaking your own principles. And, you know, that's the annoying part. But, like, do you break your principles if you're in an automobile accident? Like, you are causing damage to property. Like, you're not intentionally doing it. So I'm trying to kind of come up with this new solution of putting this together like that.
Well, give me the lifeboat scenario that you heard most recently.
Well, like, just with the one with the water, you know, say, I was out hiking with my friends and, you know, you got separated.
No. Give me a real lifeboat scenario.
Well, there are no real lifeboat scenarios. They're just a bunch of bullshit.
No, not a real life one. I mean, like, give me a scenario that actually involves a lifeboat, not a desert. I want lots of water.
Okay, well, maybe lifeboat scenario would be a terminology, I guess.
Okay, so you're thinking more the absurd hypothetical, and most
correct.
Lifeboat scenarios are. But all right, so this was the one in the debate was you're out hiking and you run out of water.
Yeah, so you would steal the water, and then whenever Kinsella actually never would admit that he would steal the water, but David Friedman did. And as soon as he would admit to stealing the water, he would, like, hammer on him, like, you're breaking the non-aggression principle. Then, you know, your whole non-aggression principle folds and you're being hypocritical to yourself. And I want to point that out, you know, to help you along. And it's kind of pompous the way he says it. It's very annoying. But, like...
Do you know the answer to that one? I have an answer to that one. What was Friedman's answer?
He just said, yeah, he would take the water, and then, people wouldn't be really upset. Like, there would be no punishment because, like,
you're stealing water.
You stole some water to stay alive. Like, no one's gonna persecute you for that.
But that was okay, and that's I think that's vaguely the right answer. But you want to hear my crack at this one?
Absolutely.
All right. So I would steal the water. Die or steal the water? Hell yeah, I'd steal the water. Am I violating the non-aggression principle? Yes, I am. And this is why, like I said earlier, the non-aggression principle, while an absolute moral principle, is not an absolute that must be followed at all times or else the sky is going to fall and the universe is going to crumble, No. And I often refer to the Heimlich scenario, right? Because hypothetically, the Heimlich maneuver, when someone's choking, you give them the Heimlich maneuver, you're violating the non-aggression principle because you're assaulting their body and they didn't give you consent. You're going by the assumption that this is going to be okay. You're committing a violation of the non-aggression principle on the assumption that no one in their right mind is going to hold that against you, and that if you cause damage to someone that they want to claim to by virtue of your violation, that you will make up for it. So, like, let's say I give someone the Heimlich maneuver, but it turns out they're not choking, and I just break a few of their ribs, right? This is, by the way, I actually got that from Arrested Development. That actually happened to Dr. Tobias Funke, and he lost his medical license as a result of giving a sleeping man the Heimlich maneuver. So if I do that, like if I give someone the Heimlich maneuver, and it turns out they're not choking and I break their ribs, I'm taking on a certain amount of risk. So it's not like you said, as an accident. Obviously, that's an accident. I'm not trying to break someone's ribs. I'm trying to help them. But in taking the action of giving someone the Heimlich maneuver, I'm also taking responsibility for my action. So that if they don't accept, if I end up just breaking their ribs, oh crap, does your medical insurance cover that? Hey, let me do what I can to help you out. Let me pay you for the damages. Let me compensate you for the pain and your trouble. And I'm like, you're willing to take that on, right? And that's part of the risk of life. Welcome to the human race. Welcome to interacting with other people. Not every violation of the non-aggression principle or violation of someone's property rights is necessarily intentional. But the answer is not, oh, well, we have to condemn every single thing and pretend that we can eradicate all of it, as much as just acknowledge it for what it is and then ask people to take appropriate responsibility for their actions. So in the case of water, would I steal the water? Hell yeah. And here's the assumption, and here's how it works out by applying that same logic, which is that if you had water, and it's sort of like, under what circumstances are you stealing it? Are you killing someone in order to take their water? Are you destroying their life? Are you like going to an abandoned property and drinking some water? Or are you like breaking into someone's home and drinking their water? What is the damage of the theft? So and that's actually very important, right? Because like if I was dying of thirst but I was alive, and I knew I had, not minutes to live, but like hours to live, right? Because if you have minutes to live, you're already passed out. Your brain already stopped working. So yeah. I have hours to live. I know I'm going to die if I don't get some more water. And there's a dude walking down the street, drinking water. Here's the thing. Like if he's just chugging water and spilling all over the place, and I know am I going to stop? And like he's about to kill this bottle, right? Whatever he's drinking. Am I going to stop him and be like, oh, let me explain my situation. If I don't get water within a few hours, I'm going to die. Please stop splashing that all over the place. No, I'd run up to him and I would grab it. If I could, I would stop him, and that would be the responsible thing to do. But if I couldn't, no, I'd run up and snatch it out of his hand. Would I kill him to do it? Absolutely not. And this is where the relative value is very important. Now, if it was someone who I could convince, like, hey, dude, if you don't give me your water, I'm going to die, then that person would be saying, well, I want you to die. I want to have my water more than I want you to live. To which society would say, fuck you. You are a sick, cruel human being. Yes, you have no moral obligation under the non-aggression principle or self-ownership to give up your water. Fine, you own it. But you are so disgusting that you would allow someone's life to end rather than give up your water. That is cause for a whole other set of nonviolent sanctions. Now, if I go and actually take the water, and what I'm saying is that the cost to you of losing that water is not nearly as valuable as my life. And when you realize that by saving my life, you have created that extra value, you are going to be grateful because I am going to owe you for that, or you are going to be able to say that you saved a life. That the value of that outweighs the consequences or the cost that you're imposing on someone else by stealing the water from them. Now, you could take this the wrong way. You could go like, well, we're stealing from people and we're government because it's for their own good and they're going to be grateful. And in a sense, you would be right. And this is why we have to change the paradigm and wake people up and say, no, stealing is wrong, not as a moral absolute, not under any circumstances, but because this is my stuff, and you haven't convinced me that you should be able to steal from me without consequence. Or if you do steal from me, I'm going to demand some compensation. Just like if you stole my water bottle, I'd say, okay, your life is saved. You kind of owe me now, and I hope that you'd at least replace my water bottle with a few extra water bottles, and we can call it even, and everybody's happy.
Yeah, that's well said. I wish Kinsella and or Friedman would have said anything close to that. They would just get all upset, and like it made me feel bad for them. That they would almost fall into defeat on such like bullshit.
Well, get me into the debate next time.
Throughout the debate, they could hammer, but when it comes to that, they just kind of fall apart, and Kinsella gets a little agitated and angry, and
you can't do that. I mean, if you like, and I love Kinsella, and on the topic of intellectual property, he's about the best there is in the movement.
Yeah, top dog.
Yeah, no question. I mean, wrote the book, and I was actually very fortunate for him to consult on freedom for the intellectual property section. And when we write the sequel, or one of the sequels that focuses on intellectual property, I know I'm going to be talking to him again. But if you want to put someone forward as an advocate of freedom and self-ownership and the non-aggression principle, you have to have someone that can not only think on their feet, as I'm sure those gentlemen can, but have the emotional grounding to either say, I don't know, or take the time to give a well-reasoned, thought-out response like I just did. And it's not because I've pre-planned that, and I would hope that my response was a very thorough one, if anything, a little too thorough and long-winded, but that if you really get it, anybody who is a master of the message should be able to do what I just did. And if you can't do what I just did, either you don't have the speaking skills, the thinking skills, or the emotional self-control to be, an advocate that is going to win people's confidence in any situation. And I want to be able to share this with people, and it's not hard. It really isn't. And if you read the book Freedom, I think it'll give you at least the complete rounded understanding to be able to do that. But it takes practice, and it takes a lot of work. And if I may transition to a shameless plug here, for the forums, we have a thread, and what I was thinking of doing was the Freedom Masterclass Workshop. You get to come to the Adam versus the Man studios and hang out for a day and talk freedom, and at the end of the day, you'll have whatever meager talents and skills that I possess transferred to you.
Nice. Well, as freedom goes, I was at the office the other day, and I printed up several copies, and I frequently ride the bus, so
nice.
I leave copies on the bus.
Yes, it's happening. It's happening, baby. I love it. Have you had any response? Have you talked to people to ask them to read it?
I've actually got a couple people to listen to the audio version of it, and well received so far.
Awesome.
Yeah.
This could be the most viral book in human history.
It's possible.
You believe that?
At least get it up there next to Atlas Shrugged, and we'll be good to go.
You know what? It's funny you mentioned Atlas Shrugged, because I was talking about that with one of my gym buddies this morning, and Atlas Shrugged has gotten to a point where if you're politically inclined, you kind of have to have an opinion on it, but you're not expected to have read it because it's so damn long. And I loved it. I breezed through it. And I think objectivism is a beautiful philosophy that Ayn Rand captured brilliantly in her books and then misapplied in her analysis of politics and government in so many destructive ways.
I agree.
I mean, if you're an objectivist, you kind of have to be a libertarian, voluntarist, anti-statist of some stripe. I mean, there's just no way around, the square peg that she tried to fit into a round hole justifying minarchism. But that aside, most people have an opinion on it but haven't read it. And that's cool, like they're liberals. Well, you have to have an opinion on Atlas Shrugged, even if you're just a liberal. But it's if freedom gets to that level, it's going to be so much more successful because it's so short. No one, there's not going to be, like, someone will write a summary, but there's no Cliff's Notes. It's 100 pages. You just freaking read it. It's 3 hours. You just listen to it. Everybody's going to have an opinion on this. And actually, Atlas Shrugged is sort of like my medium goal for the book. My small goal for the book is that it is already achieved, basically. That people like you will pick it up as an effective tool. And that's happening, dude. I'm just unfucking believably psyched and blown away by the response to that being what I thought it was going to be.
That's complicated. I think if somebody had the answer, they'd be a lot better off than I am.
And again, that's from Adam Kokesh on YouTube. Adam versus Man. I read the book Freedom, and it really is a good book, and I do recommend people to read it. There's a couple things in there that maybe I kind of swayed a little bit different. Not too much, but I had a little bit different outtake on a few things. But for the overall look at it, it really does get down to the fundamentals of what, a society based on the non-aggression principle and the idea of freedom really would, what the fundamentals would consist of. And I really did enjoy reading it. And, you might not like it. I don't know, but I really think that it is worth a read. And you can get it free at adamversustheman.com. Amazon right now has, for like 99 cents, you can download it for Kindle. And if you have a Kindle app, you can download it. And if you go to Anti-Tyranny.news.com on the right-hand side down there, I have it posted there. That way you can click on it and download the Kindle one. I had one other person read it. I think they listened to the audio of it, but I seen a lot of socialistic attitude come out in the person. They really showed that they really just, how they view society is completely different. They don't believe in the individual because everything must be done as a collective, not understanding that it's the individual and that free thought and that free expression of that person and that free ability to have property and use that property to prosper and to be able to be creative with it and try to do things to further mankind. That's what progresses. That's true progressivism, is the individual and respecting the rights of individuals. And that again shows how titles and stuff, that the wording is just so completely construed. You look at the word liberal and liberalism, and you look at what a classic liberal would have been, Thomas Jefferson. It's completely different than what we call liberals today. And true progressivism is allowing individuals to be free, beautiful people. And be able to be creative and, use what is there for them to use. And when we break away from that, we're going to lose that ability to evolutionize. When we become that third world where we just don't have anything to work with anymore because it's all been destroyed. When the empire falls, it's not going to turn out well. It's going to be hard on people, and you're not going to be able to be innovative. So we have to move towards freedom. We can't allow empire to fall. We have to start dismantling it and, getting back to states' rights is what we need to work on. And then getting back to the local community and, eventually getting back to the individual. And I think that, people can prosper under that. And I think that's what a lot of these fights really lack, is really looking at true liberty and what are we going to do in these situations to become free individuals. A farmer isn't going, well, I want California out there to be able to do this, and he's going, I want to be able to do this, and this. This is my property. This is my land. I want to be able to do what I want on it. And when I move about throughout the country, I don't want to be harassed. And it really comes down to just, I want to be free. And if we don't start moving in that direction, we're going to see the empire grow, and it's going to be like the housing bubble. The empire is going to get too fat and, stroke out. It's when I look at the people that I've met that do have a socialistic outlook, I ask them, what would make you think that certain way, and it usually comes down to, or like the lifeboat. If someone needs water, other people shouldn't have the right to hoard it all. And they don't see, well, with government, they're hoarding it all. When you live in cities and you can't have a well dug in your backyard, you can't have it drilled out and, pump it down there and pump groundwater. They go, no, you can't have that. You have to hook up to the city and pay us for water that we pump out of the dirty river and filter. And you're like, okay, that socialistic type thing is better than being a free individual with private property and be able to put a well. You just pay the power bill that comes out from you pumping that water out of the ground. They turn it into a public thing. Once you become the city limits, then the water becomes public property, basically. And some cities, they'll allow you to keep your well. But if it goes out or you have a problem with it, you're not allowed to fix it. Gotta cap it and hook up to the city. Some of them make them hook up. Sewer. Can't have a septic pit in, even though they have come up with better ways to put septics in, which one of them is one that I extremely hate because it's a big, huge, giant mound in your yard. some counties are, I know here in Indiana, force you to do that. And being on the lake, we're forced to hook into the sewer. Can't have septic. They're trying to clean up the lakes, even though they're not that dirty. We have, you know, a little green tint to our lake. That's just from vegetation. And another lake that has a few more natural springs in it. Across the street, it feeds into our lake. Completely clear water. And it's not like they've just had the sewer in for 20 years and now it's clean. You know, it was just a few years back. Maybe 5 years now, but it's always been clear. But it was a way to hook into the city. And it's not the closest city either. It's not even in our county. So we actually have to pay our sewer bill to a city that's not even in our county. Which I've been kind of looking in to see, you know, what type of legal ability they have to do that. But I think they had the closest sewer line to our area, so it's cheaper. It's just, you know, bureaucracies are just, they're running rampant. And if you haven't been paying attention to the news lately for the past couple years, a lot of these bureaucracies are buying millions of bullets, all kinds of weaponry, MRAPs, military is still building up their armories, and police forces are getting their MRAPs, and they have their rocket launchers and their ARs. Look at our country. It's being fundamentally transformed. We have an open border that's flooding illegal immigrants in that I don't care if these people want to come to America. That's not my beef. Problem is they're getting a lot of people that there's been whistleblowers that said that these, you know, children have some diseases coming in that are America or, you know, the United States have not seen for decades. They're being put in harm's way. They're dying. We have so many coming in and being put on welfare. And who are they going to vote for? And whatever it was that Bush signed, I forget the name of it, but the DREAM Act or whatever, I think that was up to age 30 or something nuts, what they consider children under the DREAM Act. Supposed gang members are getting through. There's a lot of just criminality going on with this, and they are fundamentally transforming America, and you're going to see things start to, you know, unfold unless we take a grasp on it. Thank you for tuning in. Have a great weekend. I'll see you next week. Anti-Tyranny News on UCY.TV. Stay tuned. Great broadcast coming up.